During this presentation, we are going to look at popular and scholarly resources, what they are, and how we might identify differences between the two. During your time in college, you may have heard talk about using scholarly sources in your assignments, and if you haven't, chances are that you will. Let's look at what exactly a scholarly source is and how it differs from a popular source. Scholarly sources come in different forms, but for the most part, you'll see them as books and peer-reviewed articles. A peer-reviewed article is a write-up of a piece of research, theory, or other scholarly activity that has been checked for quality by an editor who is knowledgeable in the subject prior to publication. Peer-reviewed articles may also be called juried articles, refereed articles, or simply scholarly articles. Unfortunately, it's not always easy to tell if something is a scholarly source right away. Here are some key characteristics you can use to tell the difference between a scholarly source, the kind you should be using for your assignments, and a popular source, the kind that is generally just for fun or casual reading. Popular sources are normally written by journalists or other non-specialists, people whose main job is to summarize ideas or events using everyday and relatable language, sometimes very relatable language. On the other hand, scholarly sources are written by researchers, theorists, and other specialists, people who have an in-depth knowledge of the subject. They tend to have a lot of letters after their names. Popular sources are written for a broad, general audience. They're intentionally written to be understood by as wide a variety of people as possible. Think of it this way. Twilight doesn't spend much time on the intricacies of cellular metabolism in vampires, and J.K. Rowling tells us little about parliamentary procedure during faculty meetings at Hogwarts. It would be a rather small audience that would be interested in those kinds of details. Scholarly sources are all about that kind of detail. They're written by specialists for specialists. This means they're writing for a narrower, more focused audience. Popular sources usually need to compete for attention. This means a colorful, flashy presentation, usually with lots of pictures and graphics, not to mention advertisements. Scholarly sources, in contrast, well, they're not aiming to be flashy. They normally have lots of dense black and white text, and the images that do make their way in are likely to be charts and graphs. If there are advertisements, they're minimal, and they're usually for things we're not looking to buy in our everyday lives, like textbooks or even food for lab rats. Popular sources tend to be used for entertainment or to stay informed with current events. You'll also find a lot of opinion pieces in popular sources. For scholarly sources, objectivity is a major goal. They'll also use a lot of jargon, scholarly language specific to their field of study, and they tend to report research rather than opinion. Let's think about a magazine or newspaper you've read, either online or on paper. Did you ever see something that looked like this at the end of an article? Probably not. While scholarly sources are virtually required to have long lists of supporting references and complete citations, popular writers usually don't list the sources they consulted, and if they do, it's normally in an indirect way. So there's an overview of the differences between scholarly and popular sources. It's important to remember that the distinction isn't always black and white. It's more of a continuum from one end to the other. For example, a researcher might write a magazine article summarizing her latest experiment for a general audience, or a journalist might produce a book that deals with a topic in depth and is backed up by a formidable references section. In the end, you need to use these distinctions as guidelines. What makes a good source is going to vary based on your goals and the requirements for your assignment. Developing your own ability to evaluate sources is an important part of information literacy. And when in doubt, you can always ask a librarian. It's what we're here for.